Hey everybody, I'm Ezekiel and welcome to the shop. Today I finally got in my replacement parts for the timing pulley from Grizzly and Little Machine Shop, and we're going to compare the differences between the two parts, and I'll show you how to replace the timing pulley on a Grizzly mini lathe. Let's get right into it. Okay, so the first thing that I wanted to show you was the original timing belt pulley that I had installed when I bought the lathe. As you can see, the key has sheared off, and I removed the set screw. Notice that it's opposite of the keyway. When I ordered the replacement part direct from Grizzly, they sent me a new one of the exact same make, keyway intact, but the set screw is interestingly not directly in line opposite of the original. But I also ordered one from Little Machine Shop, as it comes with a metal key that you can insert into here, and this will help prevent that shearing problem before. But this one, interestingly, does not have any spot for a set screw. So as I start taking this apart, I just wanted to mention the customer service from both of these places that I ordered this from, Little Machine Shop and Grizzly. They were both great, but Grizzly was a little bit slow on replying to my initial request about the warranty replacement, but once they did respond, the part shipped out rather quickly. Little Machine Shop very quickly took care of me, but its shipping process was a little bit slower, and these parts actually ended up coming on the same day. Now that I've got this taken apart, I'll use a Phillips head screwdriver to remove the back of the chip tray. There are several screws here and one at the headstock, and then that's all that's required to remove this part of the lathe. While this part isn't technically in the way of what I need to get to, it will make maneuvering the lathe easier and access to these other screws easier as well. Now I'm removing the motor cover. This will give me access to the motor and the place where the timing belt pulley is. Now I'll slide the cover up the power cord just to get it out of the way. And here are the Allen wrenches that I'll need to remove these retaining bolts from these gears. As I unscrew these, I make sure to place them on an area of the workbench where I won't lose them. Now that the retaining bolts are off, I set those aside and make sure to grab these gears very gently, walking them off, as I don't have a gear puller, but they're not on very tightly, so they don't really require one. So here we can get a good look at the motor shaft and the keyway. I make sure to put it face up, and I'm doing just a quick dry fit of the Little Machine Shop timing pulley to see how it fits and the alignment between the belt and the motor shaft. So here you can see that it's very far off, and I'll need to actually rotate how the motor is sitting in its housing to be able to make sure that this aligns properly. And to do that, that means I have to get this turned back around, because in the electronics plate cover is actually where the bolts for the housing of the motor are located. So I'll remove these 4 screws, again making sure to put them somewhere where I won't lose them. These bottom bolts are a little bit of a pain to get off, but once they are removed, you can remove the electrical panel and see where the motor mount bolts are. And they use a 10mm nut, and that is what I use to loosen these up just a little bit, enough for me to reach over the back and align the motor with the shaft and the belt, and then I tighten it back up. Now I'll put back on the bolts for the top portion of the electrical cover. I was having too much trouble with these bottom ones, so I decided to very gently tilt the lathe back and install them this way. Now that the motor shaft is aligned perpendicular to the belt, I start looking at how the key and the keyway on the Little Machine Shop timing pulley interact with the shaft. I removed the faceplate of the timing pulley, and I install this on to the motor shaft and insert the key. But at this point, I start to notice that the interaction between the pulley and the belt is a little bit loose. So I started investigating why that is, and I discovered that the shaft hole in the actual timing pulley is a bit too large. That was the Little Machine Shop model, but this white part is the replacement warranty part from Grizzly. Now I start to compare the fit of these two parts, picking up both and checking the fit on the shaft. They definitely do not fit the same, and the Little Machine Shop part that I ordered is a bit too large, so I go with the Grizzly replacement part. I again remove the retaining faceplate and start to install this part onto the motor shaft. Here I line up the key and the keyway on the motor shaft, then I reinstall the retaining faceplate. Now that that's on, I start checking the alignment between the belt and the pulley again. Here I'm just slightly adjusting how far the timing pulley fits onto the motor shaft. Now I go in and make sure that the set screw is engaged and making contact with the motor shaft. This takes a while as my range of motion is cut short by all of the parts that are in this area. Now I'll reinstall these gears, again making sure that they go onto their shafts very carefully. I'm not using a lot of force and gently walking them onto the shafts. Now I'll reinstall the retaining bolts and use the Allen wrenches to tighten them up. Here I'm hand turning the chuck to check the alignment of all of the gears and how they're interacting right now. And then I go on to one last tightening of the set screw, and then I'll be ready to reinstall the cover for this portion of the machine. At this point, I'm ready to test the machine, and you can see me placing some work into the chuck, and I turn it on, and I very, very slowly start to increase the RPM. This video is sped up about 4 times as fast. So what I'm doing right now is speeding it up, and I am looking at how the gears are interacting and how the pulley is aligned over a period of time to see if there's any wiggle or play in any of the parts. I do have safety glasses on, and my hand is placed over that emergency stop should anything go wrong. I bring the machine all the way up to 2000 and then bring it back down to a stop. Because I decided to go with the Grizzly replacement part, which has that plastic key, I do have to keep that in mind as I consider what I'm asking this machine to do. And there we have it. A fairly simple repair, got the lathe back up and running, but a few of the steps did require some special attention, such as making sure that the timing belt was in line with the pulley and that the motor was in line so it wasn't operating at an angle. Getting the set screw was also very important, and making sure that the key and the keyway were aligned, also very critical to making sure this part is installed properly. In the meantime, if you want to know when I post more videos, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon. Thanks for stopping by the shop.
My name, screen and so